Hey, my sweet pals. Today we are making sandwiches. I was gonna do a holiday project, but I decided to do sandwiches instead. This is important. Watch this. I've got my ruler and I'm measuring 1.5 inches, and I'm doing this all the way across. So you can see I'm doing it in the middle here. This is a 9 by 12 sheet of paper. So 9 by 12 or 12 inches will divide into eight 1.5 inch sections. So you can see I have 1.5, 3, 4.5, and then 6, 7.5, and then 9, 10.5, and 12. So I did those on both sides of my paper, so I'd make sure that I got them right. This is going to be a folded paper project. We're kind of going to fold this like an accordion style fold, which if you don't know what that is, you will soon. So I'm going across my paper and I'm marking those lines with my ruler. This is another time where the ruler is important to have, and it'll just look really nice and neat knowing that all of your little sections are the same length. And, this kind of stuff takes time, but it really does make a difference. So now I'm doing, in the top two sections, I'm doing the top and bottom of my sandwich. And I'm just lining it up so the bottom of my sandwich is about the same length as the top of my sandwich. So I'm doing that because once I fold it all up, those two sides are going to be a lot closer together. So you're going to want them to be pretty much the same size. So I'm just shaping that little bun that I'm going to be making. And I use this brown sheet of construction paper because I have a lot of brown construction paper. I feel like I never end up using it. I use the other colors. I kind of wished I used a lighter piece of paper in the end because with my sandwich I drew like a little hamburger and it ended up being the same color as my hamburger bun on this brown sheet of paper. So yellow would be probably good. If you have any of those tan colors of paper, that would be good too. Oh, okay. So I'm going here and I'm taking off these little end pieces because it just looks best this way. If you want your hamburger buns to go all the way across your paper, you can, but I cut this part off. I think I'm cutting off maybe 2 inches on either side. Yeah. Or maybe an 1.5 inches on either side. It doesn't really matter. That part is not essential to the actual making of this. I want to show you a trick for folding. So see how I've got my ruler? I'm going to pick up that paper and I'm going to fold it over my ruler. That'll make a perfectly flat fold. So I'm going to fold it in the direction I want. And with this, you don't have to exactly fold it in the right direction right away. You just have to create that fold so you know where to fold. And no fear if you don't have a ruler, you can do this with pretty much any straight edge. A good straight edge is always like a ruler or a hardcover book cover. You could use those things to make these nice folds. It took me forever to figure out how to do this, so I thought I'd show you guys sooner rather than later. So I'm creating my folds. And then on the top 3 folds, I'm going to use those top 3 folds that are facing up. And I'm going to put a bunch of different toppings on them. And I'm using scrap paper, actually, to make my toppings. Because why waste paper? You'll see, I have like another project that I demonstrated to some of the younger kids. And I didn't end up needing that piece of paper, but it's a nice piece of paper and it's just sitting around. So I used it to make a bunch of toppings for my little sandwich. I threw some poppy seeds, I guess, or sesame seeds on the top of my bun because I'm kind of making like a hamburger, more like an Impossible Burger. I'm imagining mine's an Impossible Burger. Yeah, see, this is my scrap paper. It's nice paper, but this was a demonstration I did in class and I do not need it anymore, so I'm going to make my toppings. I'm making a little hamburger now with little wavy edges. Or, my Impossible Burger, rather. And I put that in. And then I'm also going to make a tomato slice. See, I'm making these not perfectly round and circular because we're looking at them from face on. if that makes sense. So all of the little triangles inside of my tomato slice are kind of, they're wider than they are long because we're making our tomato piece wider than it is long. So I have those two pieces here, and I'm going to grab some other scrap paper or look in other sections to make more toppings. But I'm outlining these in a Sharpie pen. I think it looks nice. I'm going to end up coloring these all in with marker, and you can do the same. You could do, really this project, you don't have to use what I use. You can use something else. I'm actually making this Impossible Burger that I'm putting on my paper burger a little bit bigger, and I'm erasing those pencil lines because I want it to look substantial. And I was actually thinking to myself, as I was making this, that I should really be holding up my paper burger to the little shapes I was drawing to make sure they're a good size for my, to go on my buns, or not my buns, in between in the folds. So I also drew some lettuce leaves right here. I'm drawing two because I feel like 2 lettuce leaves would make sense. I want to make sure I have an adequate amount of toppings, which is why I'm doing 2 lettuce leaves and things like that. The more toppings that you put on this, kind of the better it will look. So if you want to draw multiple buns, multiple tomatoes, things like that, that would be great because this will give us a lot of stuff to put on our burger buns. So now I'm really comparing it to the burger that I have over here. I'm going to draw a fried egg because I do like a fried egg on a sandwich. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but I do, so I'm going to do that. And then lastly, I'm looking for parts of my scrap paper that are going to work for this. And yeah, I have plenty of space on the back of this paper, again, because I like to reuse paper. I don't like to use a whole new sheet of paper if I don't have to. I'm drawing some cheese, of course, and I'm making this Swiss cheese with holes in it. I don't really like Swiss cheese in my sandwiches, but I feel like Swiss cheese is a very recognizable cheese. So I'm giving this a little bit of depth. I'm making my cheese kind of 3-dimensional, as you can see here, by just putting another another diamond under my cheese and giving it another layer. I'm doing the same with this piece of cheese, which I guess would be like a piece of provolone, because I prefer provolone on my sandwiches, and I feel like provolone looks a little bit more like that. So I drew a piece of provolone as well. Yeah, so I'm outlining all of these different pieces of cheese, and after that, I'm going to get started drawing or coloring in my toppings and then cutting them out, or vice versa, cutting them out and drawing them in. So I'm going to get started on cutting, I think, first. Okay, at this point I've done what they call rough cuts, or what I call rough cuts. Like you can see with the lettuce leaves, I haven't totally cut them out, but that's okay because it's easier to cut those sort of rough cuts first. And then I'll cut out the little details later, but this will give me space. So if I color over the lines with this sort of stuff, I can always just cut it away. So I'm using Sharpies to color in my different little sandwich toppings. And I'm using Sharpies because I like coloring with Sharpies. They blend nicely. If I'm using markers, I like to use markers like this. I like using permanent markers. But use whatever markers you have. I'm using Sharpies because I think some of you might possibly have colored Sharpies at home or colored markers that are similar. So that's why I'm using them. I'm layering up some different colors in this tomato, and then I'm doing my little inner tomato sections. I'm doing them sort of orangey pink on the inside there. And I think that pink really works for the inside of a tomato. So if you're going to make a tomato, I do recommend doing the inside pink. So, okay, I use school glue here, and I feel like every time I end up using school glue, I end up regretting it because it makes your paper all sort of wrinkly on the bottom, and I definitely could have just attached this with a glue stick. So yeah, I would recommend using a glue stick and not your school glue. I'm like closing up my school glue thinking, no, I'm not going to use this again. I need a glue stick. And that's what I end up doing. But okay, I have my cheese, my little Swiss cheese piece right here. And I'm actually using a different marker now. It's another permanent marker. I didn't have a yellow Sharpie, so I'm using this marker. You can find nice permanent markers at a discount online or at the store if you would like. They are out there, but Sharpies are a good bet, and usually Sharpies are pretty cheap, or sort of off-brand Sharpies work great. Okay, so now I'm coloring in the little holes in my cheese. Instead of cutting them out, I'm just coloring them brown like my paper. So it just looks a little bit more real. I'm grabbing my green Sharpie, and I am doing my sort of veins on the leaves of the of my lettuce leaves. A darker green, and then I'm doing a lighter green for the top of my leaves. I think these are the same colors I actually ended up using for our Frida Kahlo project from way back when, are those green Sharpies. I use them for coloring in my leaves in that project. But they're looking good. So I'm continuing to color everything in. Okie dokie, I have most of my pieces colored now, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and attach some of them to my little burger at this time. So I've got my glue stick out, and I am feeling like my glue stick was definitely a better option for this. So with this, I'm kind of trying to position that cheese so it's going over the edge a little bit, because when you fold it, it'll look really nice if you sort of put it right over the edge, because when you fold up the paper, you'll still be able to see the sandwich toppings kind of peeking out. So I really like that idea. I'm coloring in my little fried egg now, and I've got to decide where to put it. I'm putting some little brown spots on the edges, because you know how fried eggs sometimes get those little really crispy parts on the edges. So I'm doing that. I'm trying to make them look nice, as I always do. Nothing wrong with putting a little effort here. Oh man, this part bothered me because I didn't have the right color for a slice of provolone cheese. So I ended up using a color that I feel like is not very authentic for this specific type of cheese. But live and let live, right? Okay, here we go. Now all of my pieces are colored in. All I really have left to do is to cut out those remaining lettuce leaves and get all of those pieces off, and then I'll be ready to glue everything down. So that's very exciting. I'm pretty excited to see how this all comes out, and I'm sort of thinking about where I'm going to position all of my various toppings at work. I sort of wish at the end that I made some like even little oval globs of mustard or ketchup or mayonnaise. I feel like if you did that, it would look pretty cool as well. So that's just a suggestion to all of you guys. And I'm deciding where to put my Impossible Burger, which has a little pink in the middle because I do like a medium rare burger myself. So I'm just going to put all of these on here. I know this is a bit of a long video, so I appreciate all of you sort of staying until the end and watching me put these toppings on. I want to make sure that you put them on the top parts of the accordion, so they're every other little part, and you have a gap in between the top bun of the burger and where I start putting those toppings in. But I'm gluing my little pieces of cheese, my burgers in the middle, because usually the burgers don't peek out as much as, say, a lettuce leaf or something like that. So those are all my toppings. I kind of wish I did more, but I do like the amount I did. Do more if you like. And then you've got a little sandwich. And I think my sandwich is pretty cute. My one regret is that my burger is similar in color to my construction paper. All right, give this a shot, young artist. I hope you enjoy it. Bye-bye.